characters are very shallow. There are some likable beats to it. That's unbelievable. Hi, I'm Mikey.
And I'm Tyler.
And we are Deep Red Pictures.
Today, your favorite pair is going to be talking about the Friday the 13th franchise, and we're going to try to decide if it's too fun or if it's too dumb. So, you want to go, Mikey?
The results may shock you.
Yeah. We were very close.
All right, so for part one,
it's not good.
It's not great, no.
It's not at all.
No, so for part one, I have it currently sitting at 2 points fun, 3 points dumb. For me, at least, the bulk of the fun of watching that movie goes out the window the second you find out who the killer is. The whodunit aspect doesn't really work for me because we're never introduced to Pamela.
Yeah, it's the same thing for me. Fun is a 2, dumb is a 3. We don't know who this character is. We're just briefly told about her son. And they kind of present it in such a way of like, at times they sort of insinuate that maybe it's like one of the campers, but it barely even does that.
Yeah. Also, just a side note before we really get too far into this, we have a list of notes below the camera. So if it looks like we're kind of like staring at something or looking a little like kind of off, that's what it is. It's not that we have forgotten how to blink or that we don't know how to be human beings. We don't, but
it's true.
Irrelevant. All right, so Friday part 2.
It's the same. It's a 2 for fun, 3 for dumb. I mean, like, I applaud them for, like, I feel like they were subtly kind of listening to the fan reactions and was like, all right, how can we carry this on? And, like, the bag head look for Jason, like, I mean, it can be cool, but I don't know. I just feel like it was one of those where they're like, let's keep going, but you can tell they still didn't genuinely have a plan of what they were doing.
You can really feel like they had no idea what was actually going to be like next. I think they kind of figured they'd probably get one movie, maybe 2.
Yeah.
So for me, I have part 2 with 3 fun and 2 dumb. There are a lot of aspects of part 2 that work for me. I like that he's a little bit more mobile. I like that he runs.
Yeah, I definitely like it a lot more than part 1.
Oh yeah,
it is a more engaging movie. Like, at least now there's like, it's not so much just like the POV of the killer. You actually have
like a visual.
Yeah.
I like that aspect of it. I like the like the younger cast, like the counselors and stuff like that. I think that Ginny especially is a very engaging final girl, and I like that they do a lot of stuff to set up like how she kind of utilizes certain skill sets of like the last act of the movie, like you know, like they hint that she works in child development or you know like that she wants to. I like that aspect of it, but there are other aspects of it that are not great, obviously. Like Jason's design as a whole isn't great. I think when the bag is taken off, he looks like one of the things from Wrong Turn.
Yeah.
Not great.
No.
All right, so up next is Friday the 13th part 3,
also known as Friday the 13th 3D.
So I have part 3 at 3 fun and 2 dumb. A lot of the 3D visuals do not work for me even slightly. I think that they actually like deeply hurt the film in a lot of ways. But there are elements of it that are obviously lovable, like the aspect that this is the first movie where we get to see him get the hockey mask, and there are iconic kills like you know the harpoon kill and stuff. And
yeah, I have the same thing. It's 3 fun and 2 dumb. That like the hockey mask was just something that they just used because they had nothing else on set, and it like became this like pop culture phenomenon. It was like an accidental success. I mean, it obviously they just tried to cash in on the 3D craze that was going on in that part of the 80s, and like looking back, it doesn't look good. None of the 3D movies from the 80s looks good. I mean, I saw clips from Jaws 3D recently, and I'm just like, that was rough.
It's basically unwatchable.
Yeah, but we do have part 4.
We do have part 4.
What was it? The final chapter?
Yeah, the
final chapter. It's never the final. When it's final in it, expect about 3 more minimum.
There's some. No. There's some
lot.
leg room. So for part 4, I have 4 fun and 1 dumb. To me, this is Friday the 13th. Like, this is that franchise firing on all cylinders. I really, really like the portrayal of Jason in this movie specifically, but I also really love Corey Feldman. I think his iteration of Tommy Jarvis is awesome. I like that he's like a little scrappy, like special effects artist and stuff. I think that's just a weird but really cool touch to add to give a character random kind of personality beats. I also like I can't think of the dude's name, but like the traveler who's like looking for his sister, who kind of comes into the story. I like him a lot. And like it's just a super, super, super memorable cast. Out of like all of these movies, there's so many people I feel like
that get personality.
Yeah, well, there's so many people in so many of these movies that like kind of just feel interchangeable or like, you know, like kind of irrelevant, or they're just kind of cannon fodder. And in this movie, you kind of do get to spend a little bit more time with the younger cast and get to know them. They're not just counselors who are there to just enjoy a weekend. It's not so focused on like the camp element anymore.
Yeah, I mean, mine's the same as you. 4 fun, 1 dumb. I agree with you 1,000% on everything you just said. I mean, I think having Corey Feldman in it gave it that little extra like 1980s like flair, because that was around the time when he was like, you know, Lost Boys,
Yeah, he was
Goonies, all like he was like coming up at the time. So it's like this movie is like that little extra something that I don't know. I just think that he brings the charm to it, because like you said, they gave him an actual personality. They didn't just make him like some like scared kid or something like that.
Yeah.
Like he actually like tries to do something
Yeah.
in it.
And ultimately does. You know, he gets to work at the end. So up next we have part 5, which is everybody's favorite of this franchise. For me, I have part 5 with 1 fun and 4 dumb. The obvious reason, the whodunit element doesn't work. Once again, we see Roy for about 12 seconds at the beginning of the movie, and he's supposed to be a father who has just discovered that his son was murdered, and that does not play at all to me. Not only that, but I learned the body count in this one is the highest of, I think, the entire franchise.
I think I heard that too somewhere. You say it.
And it was directed by a former Korn director.
Yeah, I remember that is. That's right.
Yeah. So obviously there are a ton of issues with this movie. There's a lot of like objectification, and I mean, to be fair, it's not like the characters are very well thought out or well written. It's just kind of one of those movies that, like, there's a weird nostalgia for it. I remember the first time I saw it. I remember, you know, not knowing about the twist and stuff like that, and that being kind of cool at the time. But as you get older and your tastes change, I kind of was able to piece together on my own that it's not a very well-made movie.
Yeah, I mean, mine, even though my rating's higher, I have it at a 3 for fun and 2 for dumb. I do agree with you once again on everything, which might sound weird. I only gave it a higher rating because I'm like, the whodunit aspect is like, this is definitely one of those like just movies that you put on in the background, but it's that weird kind of whodunit where like I can like kind of like tune in and just be like, all right, it's kind of clear what's going on, but there's just still something I'm having fun about it. But that was definitely the movie where I can tell they were like, all right, you know, we labeled the last one the final chapter. That means we got to do something different with this, but they went a little bit too far.
I agree.
That makes sense. But then again, because of that, we now have part 6.
Part 6 is the first of the franchise introducing zombie Jason. For me, I have part 6 at 3 fun and 2 dumb. Obviously, I think this is I think it's like an interchangeable thing for a lot of people. Like this or part 4 are generally people's like favorites. And I absolutely get why. Neither of them are my favorite of the franchise, but I think they're both exceptional. But for part 6, I think a lot of the things that really, really do work, like it's the perfect 80s movie, in my opinion. Like it's like the first of the franchise that really, really just wholeheartedly leans into that like era's vibe.
Yeah.
And becomes self-aware and becomes a lot more fun. I like Tom Matthews as Tommy Jarvis a lot as well. I think like him as like a grown-up version of that kid, I don't think it necessarily works, but I like the character and where they've taken him. I think that Jason is, in this movie in particular, probably like the least threatening version of him with the hockey mask for some reason to me. It just like, I think it all kind of reads as like a little kind of hokey in some ways, but also we have the 100% guaranteed banger that is, he's back.
He's back.
It's the man behind the mask.
That's true. That's true. Mine was almost the same. I just gave it a 2 for fun, 3 for dumb, only because I felt like it was a safe movie. I felt like that was like their kind of like their damage control movie of like, they knew people didn't radiate with the last one. They didn't like the like new direction they tried to take it. So they're like, well, now we got to bring it back. I mean, Halloween did that with Halloween 4 after Season of the Witch wasn't really well received by fans.
Yeah.
So, you know, I like, it's a good time, but I can tell that it was like, it was planned out, but not in the way that they probably should have. But I was still happy to see Jason back.
Yeah.
You know, when I was finally marathoning these movies, it was nice to see him back.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, after you get through part 5, especially if you're doing like a full like marathon watch through.
Yeah, and 7 gets interesting. Part 7.
Yeah, 7 is, I think, from what I've learned very recently, most people don't like 7. I have part 7 for fun and 1 dumb.
Me too.
Again, these movies, in my opinion, are the best when they're self-aware to this level of an extent. Obviously, the whole Tina element of having a girl with telekinesis and all of that is a little shark jumpy, I think we can say, but the look for Jason, plus this is Kane Hodder's first appearance as the character, and I think we can all agree that that's something to celebrate on its own. But the appearance of Jason is my absolute favorite in the entire franchise.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, like, his look is probably, of, like, these original movies, that's my favorite look. Like, that wet, rotten, just, like, decrepit, like, look to Jason. And, like, where, like, he's, like, almost like a skeleton. Like, you can see his spine and stuff. Like, I think it's just such a dope look. I mean, yeah, the whole, like, they essentially put Carrie into a Friday the 13th movie. And it was like, that was a little too far into the weird and supernatural. I just feel like it doesn't really fit this. Like, it's a cool idea, it's a cool concept, but I still had, it's still one of my favorite in the franchise. It's not my favorite, but it's one of my favorite.
And before we jump to one of the true dumpster fires of this franchise, I would like to address one small thing in part 7 that I don't think anybody ever discusses.
Which is?
What in the hell was he doing between 6 and 7?
That's a very good question.
He's not dead. He's just at the bottom of the... He's just chill. Like, he's not doing anything.
I mean, he needs rest.
And how many years is that between movies? What's the real time of that?
Was that even established?
I don't think so.
They just raw dogged it.
Yeah, no, like, I think they kind of did their own thing with part 7, like, to an extent. Like, you know, like, you've got Tina's whole story where she's a child at Camp Crystal Lake and stuff, but there's no mention of Jason.
Yeah, they really just went for it.
Yeah, they did their own thing. All right, so that brings us to Jason Takes a Boat. I have part 8, 1 fun, 4 dumb.
Same.
Wow. The actual title of this movie, for those of you who don't know, is Jason Takes Manhattan. To begin with, they are never actually in New York. I think it's like Ontario or something like that, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But that also only happens for like the last like 15 minutes of the movie.
15, 20 at the very most.
And in that time, we get to watch some junkies try to sexually assault our lead actress. We watch Jason get covered in some weird sewer goo and turn into a child again.
I forgot about that.
And we get to watch Julius, I believe, as like the boxer.
Yes.
We get to watch somebody actually try to take Jason on with just his fisticuffs, and I respect the hell out of it, but does not work out for him.
No. Yeah, this movie, yeah, it's ass. It's pure ass. I mean,
tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, well, like I had mentioned before, like the only thing that kept me from like even giving this just a 1 is when he actually gets to Manhattan. And it's only because I've seen so many memes created from that.
Yep.
It's just funny. Like his iconic just like walking through like
and kicks the boombox.
Yeah, that, and like when they like try to start shit with him and he just lifts up his mask and they walk away, or when he just like shoves that person on the moving subway. I'm like, you know what? We're here. It's a thing. And then, you know, all the legal stuff started happening in the background, and then that's how we landed with the next one, Jason Goes to Hell.
All right, so for Jason Goes to Hell, I have 2 fun and 3 dumb.
Same again.
So obviously Jason maybe shouldn't be in the title of a movie that he's in for approximately 1:35.
Probably that.
Obviously, I think it's like the spirit of Jason Lives On kind of story. There are a lot of things that do not work about this movie. Obviously, Jason not being in the movie is one of them. But the things that work for me really, really work. This movie kind of served to set up not just Freddy vs. Jason, but it also served to set up Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash.
Yeah, the
Kandarian dagger, and I think the Necronomicon's in it.
Yeah, and there's a scene where like his like the hockey mask is there, and then like Freddy's glove comes and just drags it down to hell.
I love those elements of it. Also, Creighton Duke is probably the weirdest character ever written for any movie at all, period. And there's just something about his energy. I come alive when I watch just Creighton Duke do anything in that movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say besides what you just stated. I mean, it is what it is. There was, you know, the very public legal battle that was going on with the rights, hence them not even being able to title this Friday the 13th anymore. So I feel like this was more of just we need to put something out so we can keep what rights we have. And then, of course, they had the little teaser, but there's nothing much else to it. And then we come up to the next one, Jason X. And they did a thing with that.
They did a thing. Jason X comes in at 1 fun, 4 dumb. I am extremely, extremely nostalgic for this movie. I remember the year it came out. I remember being at the movie theater and seeing the big like cardboard standee for it and like looking at my dad and being like, we're going. I had to have been probably 7 years old or something, so I didn't have taste. And that's a real big issue because I loved this movie when it first came out. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fun to be had here. I think like the cryo kill is really cool. Like a lot of the kills are really inventive and a lot of fun. Uber Jason is an experience. The CGI is abysmal. I watched somebody's review to prepare for this video, and they said that the CGI was good, and they meant it. And obviously, I'm not going to oust anybody here or anything like that. That's not what we're doing. But I was just amazed. I can't. We watched it last night to also prepare for this, and it's so like the VR simulation scene where like the giant like space lizard thing is a factor. What the fuck comes to mind? The professor as a character. But I will say, like, there are certain elements of this that I think really, really are cool. Like, I like the final girl. I think she's great, Rowan. And maybe there aren't that many great things. Never mind. No, it's just kind of her and some of the fun kills.
Yeah, I have it at a 2 fun and 3 dumb. It really fluctuates. A lot of the time it leans more towards your ranking. It kind of depends on the day. I mean, I give it a 2 fun because it's like it's a fun concept, and like, you know, it's also nostalgic for me because I remember seeing it on TV.
Yeah.
I don't remember how or why, but it was on there. It's more of like, it feels like a made for TV movie on like the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yep.
Like, there's not much there, and I'm not quite sure why it was made. Once again, I think that was more of a rights thing.
I think they were trying to keep the rights.
Yeah, so it was just another like, let's punch something out, and then they got to the point where they're like, all right, let's go to space. But
I also watched the making of, by the way.
There's a making of?
Oh yeah, I wanted to see if there was like justification. There's not. But the cool thing is
they thought they snapped.
I got to watch what's it, Todd Farmer? I think he was the writer of it. He wrote this, My Bloody Valentine 3D, just to give you his sizzle reel. And he always writes himself like to be these like really like man characters, and it's the only way he's getting jobs in Hollywood is to write himself into movies. But he sat down in this making of and basically explained like he was tasked with having to try to decide where to take Jason next. And they had toyed around with some different ideas and stuff and couldn't get anywhere. And he finally just pitched space, and apparently everybody in the room was like, "What? That's awesome idea." I made a questions. Like, so many things could have happened other than this movie. And don't get me wrong, like, that's not to say I'm not glad that it exists. Because like I kind of am for, you know, like, again, nostalgic purposes and stuff, but it is just not a very good movie. Like,
no. But because of that, we were blessed with Freddy vs. Jason.
Yeah, they had to go back. So for me, Freddy vs. Jason is also extremely nostalgic. Like, I remember my full theatrical experience with this one. I remember walking to the theater too. We had missed the preview, so we were walking in for like the opening of the movie, and it was like dark in the theater, and I remember rounding the corner and like looking in and being like, "There's nobody here," and then the screen lights up and it's a full theater, and like that whole theater was just electric. It was the most fun theater experience, like probably to this day for me. I have Freddy vs. Jason at 4 fun and 1 dumb. There are a lot of arguments to be made that this is definitely Freddy's movie. And I absolutely get that, but obviously Jason's here. And he's a lot of fun to watch in this one, despite some casting issues that took place behind the scenes. Either way, still a great movie, still a lot of fun to watch, and those are my thoughts.
I mean, it's a 5 across the board for fun for me. I mean, all I really have to say about it is that, like, it's just genuinely fun to watch. You know, I think, Ronnie, you did a good job with it. It had a banging ass soundtrack. It had those, like, early 2000s, like, horror slasher tropes, but they did them just a little bit better. Like, they were bad. They were still bad.
Oh, yeah.
But it was like, the characters were so fun to watch that you just excuse it.
Yeah, you kind of just make peace with it.
Yeah, and it's also, they're never going to make a movie like this again.
No.
You can't make a movie like this. No. Like, it was lightning in a bottle, in a very small bottle. They made it at that point in time where they could do what they did, and it's acceptable. If they tried to do that, like, now, like, not just, like, with, like the characters and all that, it wouldn't mesh and it wouldn't radiate with the audience. Not necessarily because of the climate that, you know, there is right now. It just wouldn't.
Oh, there's so many problems, like
yeah,
by today's standards with Freddy vs. Jason, a couple of lines spoken by Robert Englund to Kelly Rowland come to mind.
Yes. I was actually thinking that as I was speaking.
Which is, I mean,
if you know, you know.
Yeah, which is why there are points docked for me. It didn't age perfectly. Obviously, most of these movies did not. Most of them have very offensive undertones and very, 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 very questionable moral decisions when it comes to race, objectification of women, yada yada.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about those things. We're not those guys.
But what we can talk about is, it's my favorite. I don't know if it's your favorite.
It's my favorite.
But it's a 5 across the board for fun. The 2009 remake of Friday the 13th, and the last real theatrical entry that we've gotten.
Yeah, for me, it's a 5. Is
Derek
perfect.
Mears is just so good.
Yeah, he's so good. Like that, all you have to say
so
is Derek
menacing.
Mears, and he's far and away the best Jason, in my opinion, at least. Everything about it works for me. Again, there are those undertones, those problematic things, those not great things, but this is a schlocky, campy, ridiculous franchise as is. At this point, Jason's been pretty much everywhere the Muppets have been except for Treasure Island, and I think at some point wiping the slate clean and starting fresh was inevitable, and I think that the way that they chose to do this was the best possible way. They combined part 1 through 4.
Yeah.
So we get so many of those elements of those first 4 movies that you love all just wrapped into one thing with a very cohesive story, because between the 4 original films, there isn't one.
And it's paced surprisingly well.
Yeah, for how much they're cramming into one movie.
And
the cast is awesome.
And it's not that long either.
Yeah,
they did a lot.
Oh yeah,
they did.
They do a lot. There's one thing about this movie that I don't hear people talk about, and I think it needs to be addressed, and I would like to take a hard stance on this on our channel here today. Clay Miller, kind of a bitch. Trent was the hero of that movie.
Trent was such an over-the-top douchebag. I loved watching it.
Yeah, he's the most fun character to watch in that movie.
It was just the perfect casting for it.
But he's written like we're supposed to not root for this kid. This asshole walks into his house and tries to hard ass him in his own kitchen and shit, and we're supposed to be like, oh yeah, no, that's the hero.
What happens then?
What the
Bro, go back to Supernatural.
No, yeah, dude, you're a dick. You're in his house. Be respectful. That's why he doesn't fucking like you. You've been a dick the whole time. All he did was try to buy some shit at a gas station. You were standing in his way. So he asked if you were done.
Yeah.
And he wasn't even really rude about it. I don't know.
Yeah. But they took the cliche characters and made them over the top, but not too over the top. They did it at just a perfect level to where it was like you're having such a good time watching them. You can buy that these are a group of friends.
Yeah.
And Derek Mears, like I said, is so menacing, and what they enabled his Jason to do, and the character design and everything felt a lot more realistic.
I agree. I think the fact that he's kind of just an outdoorsman. He's very, very tactical. He's well organized with what he's doing.
He's a hunter.
He's a hunter. And I think there are, I think you kind of have to, suspend some disbelief with the tunnels and, and how did he keep Whitney alive all this time? I don't think he's feeding her, once you get past those things, and those are very small nitpicks, realistically, it's a fun movie from start to finish. And I hear so many people bag on this movie, but going through the list of all of these movies, I've really tried to piece together how in any conceivable way any of those movies that people champion, part 4 and part 6 and stuff, how are they better than this?
It's getting its love. I've noticed that a lot of people have come around to this compared to the other slasher remakes from that time. But I'm just, even if we lived in a world where that's the last Friday the 13th movie we were to ever get, I'm happy that that's the swan song of it. But we do have our ratings. For me, it says that I'm at a 35 for fun and a 25 for dumb.
And for me, I'm at a 33 fun and 27 dumb, bringing us a total of 68 fun, 52 dumb.
It's too fun to watch.
It's
its flaws are oddly its strengths in some
yeah, I was gonna say
ways.
like the dumb things about it, like just do make the movies fun to watch. We do have also a few honorable mentions. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring up Never Hike Alone, as those are what we as fans have now.
Yeah.
For me, literally all three of them are perfect.
Yeah.
I can't imagine like a more suitable group of people to have their hands on what they're doing, you know?
yeah. I mean, Womstomp really like snapped with those movies.
they
And I
did.
mean, like, if they ever do get the chance to make like a theatrical movie, I think
Oh, I'll be there opening day.
yeah, like the horror scene, like if they've seen those movies, probably unanimously would agree
Yeah.
that they're the ones that should helm it.
Absolutely.
And I hope that they do. I hope that they have that opportunity,
Yeah.
or at least to be involved.
Yeah, and like right now,
Creatively.
like not only are they doing like their stories and stuff, but like they're also like helping other artists and stuff tell their Jason stories, which I think is such a cool thing. Like
They're not gatekeeping.
yeah, like they're being extremely inclusive with something that they clearly feel protective and passionate over, and I think that that's just such a great thing. Like that they care so much about this franchise that they'll do what they can to help other people keep it alive.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's our thoughts on it. What do you guys think about it?
Yeah, please let us know down below. We are super interested. If you guys want to do a rating kind of the way that we did, we just did a 1 through 5. Obviously, it's like a scale. Have fun with it. Watch the movies. And, you know,
Yeah. Tell
see
us.
where you land.
Yeah. And which ones do you love? Which ones do you hate? Are we wrong? Probably. We usually
More
are.
often than not,
Yeah.
we are.
Ask our wives.
Yeah,
But
they'll tell you. Also, thank you guys for taking the time to watch us and letting us into your lives for the night or day, whenever you're watching this. We don't know.
we exist.
But what's the little bit that we're supposed to say? Like and subscribe.
Caress it.
Yeah, caress and gentle Levins. No, none of the aggressive stuff. We don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nobody
Please.
nobody likes it.
Please.